Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered if we're truly alone? It's a fundamental human question, one that has captivated philosophers, scientists, and everyday people for centuries. But what if that very question, that deep-seated curiosity about the cosmos, was being weaponized against us? Imagine a scenario so vast, so audacious, that it aims to reshape human society on a global scale by staging the single most significant event in history, contact with extraterrestrial life. This is the core premise of a sprawling and persistent conspiracy theory known as Project Bluebeam. It's a wild idea, one that suggests a shadowy cabal of global elites is meticulously planning to orchestrate a fake alien invasion, complete with celestial holograms and advanced mind control, all to usher in a totalitarian New World Order. The theory posits that this isn't just some far-off fantasy, it's an operational plan, decades in the making, waiting for the perfect moment to be executed. The ultimate goal, according to believers, is to dissolve all national identities, eradicate existing religions, and consolidate power under a single, unelected world government. To achieve this, the architects of this plan will allegedly use a four-step process designed to systematically break down our current reality and replace it with a new, manufactured one. It's a narrative that pulls together threads of technological fear, distrust of authority, and our collective fascination with the unknown. It suggests that the powers that be aren't just hiding the truth about UFOs, they're preparing to create their own. This isn't just a simple story of a fake UFO landing in a field. Project Bluebeam is described as a multi-layered psychological operation, or PSYOP, of the highest order. It's a plan that supposedly involves manipulating our deepest beliefs, our spiritual faiths, and our very perception of reality. The theory claims that the technology to pull this off already exists, hidden away in black-budget projects and secret military research programs. From massive, space-based holographic projectors to sophisticated electromagnetic wave transmitters that can beam thoughts directly into our heads, the alleged toolkit for this deception is the stuff of science fiction made terrifyingly real. It's a chilling thought, that the next great leap for mankind might be a carefully scripted illusion. As we stand here today, on June 12, 2025, the conversation around this theory has found new life. Strange events like the mysterious drone swarms seen across the United States in late 2024 have fanned the flames of speculation, with many seeing them as a public test run for the technologies Bluebeam describes. Is this all just the product of an overactive imagination, a modern myth for an anxious age? Or are we ignoring a blueprint for the most profound deception ever conceived? It's a complex and unsettling question, and to even begin to understand it, we have to peel back the layers and look at where this incredible story came from and what it truly claims. Every grand conspiracy theory has an origin story, a patient zero, from which the narrative spreads. For Project Bluebeam, that person was a French-Canadian investigative journalist and conspiracy theorist named Serge Monast. In the early 1990s, Monast began publishing his research, claiming to have uncovered a top-secret project orchestrated by powerful global entities, most notably NASA and the United Nations. He wasn't just connecting disparate dots, he was presenting what he alleged was a coherent, multi-stage plan for global domination. Monast's work was detailed, specific, and deeply alarming, painting a picture of a world on the brink of a technologically induced apocalypse designed to enslave humanity under a single sinister authority. Monast didn't live long to see his theory gain the global notoriety it has today. He passed away under controversial circumstances in 1996, which his followers believe was an assassination to silence him. Before his death, he laid out the entire framework for Project Bluebeam with painstaking detail. He claimed his information came from anonymous inside sources who were terrified of the plan they were helping to create. According to Monast, this wasn't just one conspiracy among many, it was the ultimate conspiracy, the capstone project that would bring all other plans for a new world order to fruition. He warned that the deception would be so convincing, so spiritually and emotionally powerful, that it would fool even the most discerning individuals. His writings described a world where technology and psychological warfare would merge to create a new artificial religion. Monast argued that the global elite had long realized that traditional methods of control, war, economic manipulation, political maneuvering, were becoming less effective in a connected world. To achieve total control, they needed something bigger, something universal. They needed a threat or a savior that would transcend all cultural and national boundaries. The solution, he claimed, was Project Bluebeam, a four-step plan to simulate a divine intervention or an alien threat, thereby tricking the world's population into willingly giving up their freedom for the promise of safety and unity under a new global messiah. The legacy of Serge Monast is a complicated one. To skeptics and mainstream observers, he was a purveyor of baseless paranoia, a man who spun a fantastical tale out of a deep-seated distrust of government and technological progress. But to his followers and a growing number of people in the digital age, he was a whistleblower, a prophet who tried to warn the world about a terrifying future. His original work continues to be circulated, translated, and updated by new generations of believers who see evidence of his predictions unfolding all around them. Whether he was a visionary or a fabulist, Serge Monast is the undisputed architect of the Project Bluebeam theory, a concept that continues to haunt the fringes of public discourse. The first step of Project Bluebeam, as outlined by Serge Monast, is not about building something new, but about demolishing what already exists. This initial phase is a campaign of psychological and spiritual destruction aimed at eroding and ultimately discrediting all traditional religious doctrines. The goal is to create a spiritual vacuum, a crisis of faith on a global scale, leaving humanity desperate for a new belief system to cling to. According to the theory, this would be achieved through a series of manufactured events designed to make people question the very foundations of their spiritual understanding. It's a form of ideological terraforming, clearing the land before a new structure can be built upon it. The primary method for this phase allegedly involves the use of manufactured discoveries. Imagine a series of coordinated archaeological digs around the world, suddenly unearthing artifacts that fundamentally contradict the core tenets of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and other major religions. These fake discoveries would be presented to the public with great fanfare, backed by seemingly credible scientists and institutions who are secretly part of the conspiracy. The artifacts would be designed to suggest that all religious texts have been misinterpreted or deliberately altered over the centuries, implying that the gods and prophets people have worshipped are not what they seem. The ensuing confusion and disillusionment would be the first crack in the dam of established belief. Alongside these fraudulent discoveries, the theory claims that the conspirators would use advanced hidden technology to create artificial earthquakes and other natural disasters in specific, strategically chosen locations. These locations would be of great religious or historical significance, and the destruction would be framed as a sign that the old ways are failing or that nature itself is rejecting our current beliefs. By linking these catastrophic events to holy sites, the architects of Bluebeam would aim to foster a sense of divine abandonment or punishment, further weakening the hold of traditional religions on the public consciousness. It's a cruel and calculated strategy, using fear and loss to sever people from their spiritual anchors. The ultimate objective of Phase 1 is to create a state of profound uncertainty and existential dread. When people lose faith in the stories and institutions that have given their lives meaning for millennia, they become malleable and desperate for answers. This manufactured spiritual crisis is the essential prerequisite for the phases that follow. By systematically dismantling the world's religions from the inside out, Project Bluebeam would prepare the global population for the introduction of a new, universal faith, one that the conspirators themselves have designed. It's a plan to break the spirit of humanity before subjugating its body and mind, setting the stage for the grand illusion to come. Once the foundations of old religions have been sufficiently shaken, Phase 2 of Project Bluebeam allegedly begins. This is perhaps the most famous and visually spectacular part of the theory, a gigantic technologically produced light show in the sky. The plan calls for the use of a network of satellites to project enormous three-dimensional holographic images into the sodium layer of the upper atmosphere, about 60 miles above the Earth. These holograms wouldn't be fuzzy or indistinct, they would be stunningly realistic, lifelike projections of various divine figures tailored to specific regions of the world. Christians might see a returning Jesus, Muslims a Mahdi, Buddhists a Maitreya, and so on, all appearing simultaneously in the heavens. This celestial spectacle would be a global event, a shared experience designed to captivate and overwhelm the senses of every person on the planet. The holograms would appear to speak, delivering a message of unity and hope, but with a sinister twist. As the various prophets and messiahs address their respective followers, their forms would slowly begin to merge and coalesce into a single new divine entity. This new figure, the theory warns, would be the Antichrist or a new god for the New World Order, presented as the ultimate fulfillment of all ancient prophecies. The sheer scale and realism of the event would be engineered to be undeniable, a seemingly divine miracle witnessed by billions. But the illusion wouldn't just be visual. To make the experience completely immersive and personal, the conspirators would allegedly employ advanced, extremely low-frequency, very low-frequency, and low-frequency wave technology. These waves, broadcast from a network of transmitters on the ground and in space, like the controversial HARP facility in Alaska, would be capable of interacting with the human brain. The result would be a form of telepathic communication, where each person would hear the voice of the holographic god speaking directly inside their own head, in their own language. This would bypass all critical thought, making the message feel like a deeply personal, divine revelation, rather than an external broadcast. The purpose of this grand sky show is to seal the deal that began in Phase 1. After having their old faiths undermined, people would be presented with what appears to be irrefutable proof of a new, unified divine truth. The emotional and psychological impact would be immense, leading to the mass acceptance of a new one-world religion centered around the worship of this manufactured deity. It's a technological sleight of hand on an unprecedented scale, using our own spiritual yearning against us. The sky, once a symbol of the infinite and the divine, would be transformed into the world's largest movie screen for the premiere of a new, engineered god. With the world reeling from the holographic sky show and embracing a new global religion, Phase 3 of Project Bluebeam would be initiated to solidify control. This phase moves from a grand external spectacle to a subtle internal invasion. It focuses on the direct manipulation of human thought and consciousness through advanced psychotronic and electromagnetic technologies. The goal is to eliminate dissent and ensure that the entire global population is mentally aligned with the agenda of the New World Order. If Phase 2 was about making people believe, Phase 3 is about making sure they never stop believing, by overriding their capacity for independent thought. The theory alleges that this would be accomplished through a pervasive two-way communication system that beams synthetic thoughts and emotions directly into people's minds. This technology is often linked to the expanding fifth-generation network, chemtrails containing so-called smart dust, those microscopic sensors, and other advanced infrastructure that could create a global mind control grid. These systems would allegedly use low-frequency electromagnetic waves to interface with the human brain's natural electrical signals. This would allow the controllers to broadcast feelings of artificial ecstasy and peace to those who comply, while inducing fear, anxiety, or confusion in anyone who begins to question the new reality, effectively creating a system of electronic thought policing. This telepathic control would make it possible to fake spiritual experiences on a mass scale. People might suddenly feel a profound connection to the new god, receive what they believe are divine instructions, or witness miracles that are, in reality, just targeted neurological manipulations. The system would be sophisticated enough to create a feedback loop, reading an individual's thoughts and emotional state, and then tailoring the broadcast to be maximally effective. This would create a population that is not only controlled, but happy to be controlled, believing they are on a path of spiritual enlightenment when they are actually puppets in a technological control system. The ultimate expression of this phase would be the creation of what Monast called the universal supernatural manifestation. This involves making it appear as though supernatural forces are intervening in the world. For example, technology could be used to make objects appear to levitate, or to allow the spirit of the new god to travel through fiber optics, power lines, and household appliances, appearing on any electronic screen at will. The line between the physical and the digital, the real and the artificial, would be completely erased. The human mind, no longer a private sanctuary, would become just another node in a global network, fully programmable and controlled by its unseen masters. After the world's population has been spiritually and psychologically conditioned, Project Bluebeam would enter its fourth and final phase, the ultimate manufactured crisis. This stage involves staging a massive, terrifying fake alien invasion. The purpose of this event is to push a frightened and chaotic world over the final precipice, convincing humanity that its only hope for survival is to completely dissolve all national borders and submit to the absolute authority of a single, unified, New World government. The threat would be so overwhelming, so seemingly unstoppable, that nations would willingly surrender their sovereignty and military power to a global body promising protection. The invasion would be a masterpiece of deception, utilizing the same holographic technology from Phase 2, but for a much more sinister purpose. Instead of gods, the skies would be filled with fleets of hostile alien warships. Secret advanced aerospace craft, developed for decades in black-budget programs and often mistaken for real UFOs, would be deployed to create real physical destruction. Cities would be targeted, creating chaos and mass panic on an unprecedented scale. This would provide the perfect justification for the implementation of worldwide martial law and the activation of the global government that has been waiting in the wings. In addition to the staged invasion, this phase might also include a faked rapture event. Using advanced teleportation or beam technology, large groups of people, perhaps dissenters or pre-selected individuals, would suddenly vanish into thin air. This would be presented as a divine event, further cementing the power of the new global religion and its messiah, while conveniently removing any opposition to the new regime. The remaining population, terrified of being left behind or destroyed by the alien invaders, would be completely subjugated, begging for the salvation offered by the New World Order. It's the final, brutal checkmate in a game played for the soul of humanity. This final act is designed to be the ultimate problem-reaction-solution scenario. The problem is a terrifying alien attack. The reaction is global fear and panic. The solution, conveniently offered by the same people who created the problem, is a one-world government, a one-world army, and a digitally controlled population. With all opposition eliminated and all nations united against a common and fake enemy, the project would be complete. Humanity, having been led through a gauntlet of spiritual deception and manufactured terror, would find itself in a new age of peace and safety, the peace of a prison and the safety of a cage. No conspiracy theory is complete without a cast of powerful and shadowy villains, and Project Bluebeam is no exception. According to Serge Monast and his followers, the plot is not the work of a single nation or organization, but a coordinated effort by a global cabal of elite groups who have been working for centuries to establish a new world order. At the top of the list of alleged perpetrators are highly visible international bodies like the United Nations and powerful government agencies like NASA. The UN is seen as the framework for the future world government, while NASA is believed to possess the secret space-based technology required to project the celestial holograms. Beneath these public-facing organizations lies a deeper layer of conspirators. The theory points to clandestine intelligence agencies and military-industrial complexes, particularly DARPA, which is known for developing next-generation technology. It also implicates secret black-budget aerospace programs that have allegedly reverse-engineered extraterrestrial technology for decades, creating the very UFOs that will be used in the final staged invasion. Secret societies like the Illuminati and the Freemasons, along with powerful banking dynasties like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, are often named as the ideological and financial architects behind the entire scheme, pulling the strings from behind the curtain. The technological arsenal that this cabal has at its disposal is, according to the theory, far beyond what is publicly known. The centerpiece is the holographic projection system, which uses satellites to turn the sky into a screen. This is complemented by the HARP facility in Alaska, which believers claim is not for atmospheric research, but is a weapon capable of causing earthquakes, controlling the weather, and, crucially, manipulating human consciousness on a mass scale. These technologies work in concert to create the physical and psychological effects needed for each phase of the project. Furthermore, the theory incorporates more modern technological fears. The rollout of 5G cellular networks is seen as the installation of a critical infrastructure for the mind control grid. The concept of smart dust, or microscopic computers that can be inhaled or ingested, is believed to be the mechanism for creating a direct neural interface with the population. Finally, all of this is said to be managed by a sentient artificial intelligence known as the Beast System, a massive quantum supercomputer that will act as the ultimate digital dictator, tracking, monitoring, and controlling every aspect of human life through biometric data, digital currency, and eventually, mandatory brain chip implants. For decades, Project Bluebeam remained largely on the fringes of conspiracy culture. However, in late 2024, a series of strange and well-documented events dragged the theory into the mainstream spotlight. It began in November 2024 when residents across the U.S. Northeast, starting in Morris County, New Jersey, reported seeing large, fast-moving drones flying in precise, silent formations, often at night. The sightings soon spread to New York, Pennsylvania, and beyond, sparking a wave of public concern and media attention. These were not your typical hobbyist drones. Witnesses described them as being the size of small cars, moving with incredible speed and agility, and operating without any apparent sound. The official response only deepened the mystery. The FAA, FBI, and Department of Homeland Security all launched investigations but publicly stated they could not identify the source or operators of the objects. White House officials attempted to quell public anxiety, with National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby suggesting the objects were likely manned aircraft operating lawfully. However, this explanation failed to satisfy many, especially as the sightings continued and no one came forward to claim responsibility. The lack of a clear answer from the authorities created an information vacuum, and into that void rushed the Project Bluebeam theory. Prominent public figures with massive online followings began to explicitly connect the drone sightings to the conspiracy. Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk and comedian Roseanne Barr, among others, posted on social media that these events were not random but were a public test run for Bluebeam's holographic technology. Their posts reached millions, introducing the theory to a new and much wider audience. They argued that the drones were mapping the sky or testing public reaction in preparation for the main event. President-elect Donald Trump also weighed in, expressing skepticism about the government's professed ignorance and fueling further distrust in the official narrative. This recent wave of speculation highlights how easily real-world events can be interpreted through the lens of a pre-existing conspiracy framework. To believers, the 2024 drone enigma is not just a strange anomaly, it is tangible, unfolding evidence that the preparatory stages of Bluebeam are underway. Skeptics, including aviation and drone experts like Missy Cummings and Vijay Kumar, offer more mundane explanations, suggesting the objects could be new military technology being tested, or even a clever private sector hoax. Regardless of the true explanation, the incident demonstrated how quickly a local mystery can become a cornerstone of a global conspiracy theory in our hyper-connected world. So, we arrive at the ultimate question. Is Project Bluebeam a real top-secret blueprint for global enslavement, or is it one of the most elaborate and imaginative conspiracy theories ever conceived? On one hand, the theory presents a narrative that is internally consistent and terrifyingly plausible to those who already harbor a deep distrust of governments and powerful institutions. It taps into genuine anxieties about technological overreach, surveillance, the loss of individuality, and the erosion of traditional faith. In an age where deepfakes are indistinguishable from reality and information can be weaponized, the idea of a grand, technologically driven deception doesn't seem as far-fetched as it once did. The theory's proponents argue that we are constantly being lied to by the powers that be, pointing to historical examples of government deception and classified programs as proof that such a plan is not only possible, but likely. They see the increasing talk of global governance, the push for digital currencies and IDs, and the strange, unexplained aerial phenomena as puzzle pieces falling into place. For them, ignoring the warnings of Serge Monast is a naive and dangerous choice. They believe that skepticism is exactly the reaction the conspirators want, lulling the population into a false sense of security before the final trap is sprung. Every denial from official sources is simply seen as further proof of the cover-up. On the other hand, skeptics and experts dismiss Project Bluebeam as a paranoid fantasy with no basis in credible evidence. They point out that the technological capabilities described, such as global holographic projection and mass telepathic mind control, are far beyond our current scientific reach. Critics argue that the theory is a classic example of conspiratorial thinking, weaving together unrelated events, technological fears, and a general distrust of authority into a single, unfalsifiable narrative. From this perspective, Project Bluebeam is not a warning about the future, but a reflection of the anxieties of the present, a modern myth created to make sense of a complex and often frightening world. Ultimately, the truth of Project Bluebeam remains a matter of belief. There is no smoking gun, no leaked document, no whistleblower with irrefutable proof. There is only the story itself, the detailed four-act play for the end of the world as we know it, and the strange real-world events that sometimes seem to echo its script. Is it a cautionary tale about the dangers of blind faith both in religion and in authority? Or is it a literal warning of a plot against all of humanity? As you look up at the sky, the question lingers. Are you seeing just clouds and stars? Or are you looking at a stage being set for the ultimate show? The answer for now is up to you to decide.